When we think of the Islamic world during the 1800s, the terms we generally associate with it are stagnation and decline. While Europe industrialized and many nations within it established themselves as great powers, the once great Ottoman Empire and Iran continued to decline. As the century progressed, they became weaker and more at the mercy of the West. The people living in these empires weren't blind to this decline and repeatedly tried to push for reform. But a reactionary elite and various groups who would lose power due to these changes opposed and blocked these efforts, sometimes by removing the reformers from power or by assassinating them. One such reformer was Muhammad Ali Pasha, who took over Egypt and through his policies came very close to making it an industrial and military power. Muhammad Ali was born to an Albanian family in Kavala in modern-day Greece. After his father passed away, he was raised by his uncles and cousins where he was given the task of collecting taxes from the people. After doing a good job, he was promoted to second commander of the Kavala contingent of the Albanian mercenaries. In 1801, the Ottomans sent him to Egypt to get rid of the French and defeat the Mamluks who were trying to gain power. The Egyptian conflict was pretty complicated with tons of politics, betrayals and battles. But the short story is that Ali worked with both sides to gain an advantage. By gaining popularity with the people, he was able to convince the Ottomans to make him governor of Egypt, and he removed the Mamluks by inviting them to a ceremony and killing them all. Now that Muhammad Ali was made governor, he could have paid the annual tribute and lived a pretty comfortable life with little to no worries. But that would mean being a servant of the Ottomans forever. His goal was to make Egypt independent from the Ottomans and establish it as one of the great powers. To achieve this, he would need a modern military. The first thing he needed to do was get a steady stream of revenue. Ali nationalized all agricultural land by raising taxes on taxed farmers. Then, when they couldn't pay, he confiscated all their properties. This allowed him to centralize tax collection and give him all the power, removing any potential opposition. Having control over the land, he then prioritized cotton production since it was a cash crop that could be exported and make the government plenty of money. And in order to maximize profits, he made it so that Egyptian farmers can only sell cotton to the government, which offered pretty low prices, and then export it at the highest price possible. Some of the money was then reinvested in agriculture, with the government building canals, dams, and generally improving the irrigation system. The next priority was to build up local industries that can support the army by providing things like clothes, guns, and cannons. Ali first set up a tariff on imported goods and then created a bunch of monopolies that set up factories. These monopolies were supported by the government through subsidies and cheap raw materials, allowing Egypt to establish a local textile industry as well as a weapons industry. Even though these factories were inefficient, the hope was that as time goes on, they would eventually grow more profitable and one day compete with British industry without any help. In order to better manage Egypt, a centralized educated bureaucracy would also be needed. Ali expanded the number of schools and set up a program that would send the most promising students to France. Many students who then came back implemented what they saw in Europe. Many also translated books from French to Arabic, increasing access to knowledge. Ali also divided Egypt into 10 provinces for better management. He also hired a ton of Europeans to run his factories, provide technical expertise, and help modernize his army. They would also train local Egyptians and help them learn modern methods of management and organization. Egypt also went ahead and built up a navy in Alexandria to defend its coast. Through these policies, Ali was able to implement a modernization program of the country and probably created the strongest army in the Islamic world. One of the reasons he was able to do this was the lack of any strong opposition against him. This is also why the Ottomans never really modernized, despite trying many times. The first two military campaigns were Egypt capturing the Hijaz region and removing the House of Saud from power. But don't worry, the Saudis will eventually come back. Next, the Egyptians invaded Sudan, which had plenty of agricultural land, rumors of gold, and slaves. After Egypt saw success in both campaigns, the Ottomans asked them for help in putting down the Greek rebellion. The rebellion had started in 1821, and after 3 years, the Ottomans were struggling. Ali agreed to send his army under his son Ibrahim Pasha in return for Crete, Cyprus, and Syria. The Egyptians arrived in 1825, and by 1827, they had nearly beaten the Greeks. However, time ran out. At the Battle of Navarino, the British completely destroyed the Egyptian navy and the war was over. Greece gained its independence in 1829. Ali had just lost his expensive, well-trained navy and gained nothing. Despite the loss of his navy, the Egyptians at this point were clearly better than the Ottomans. and Ali, not wanting to waste any more time, attacked them in 1831. Under Ibrahim Pasha, the Egyptians took control of Syria and parts of Anatolia, soundly defeating the Ottomans at the Battle of Konya and had a clear path to Constantinople. This success, however, was a little too good for the other great powers, and they quickly got both sides to sign a peace treaty. Ali cemented his gains, but he was still not formally independent. By 1838, Ali realized that he could just declare independence. The Ottomans did try to stop him, but again not realizing that losing is a bad thing, they were defeated in the Battle of Nazib. Egypt at this point could do anything. Ibrahim, for instance, wanted to march forward and take over the Ottoman capital. But just as he was so close to achieving independence, the Europeans intervened. Ali was given a choice: withdraw from Syria and Lebanon and rule Egypt as part of the Ottoman Empire, or lose it all. After British ships blocked the Nile Delta and put pressure, Ali had no choice but to withdraw. He also had to reduce his army to only 18,000, shrink the size of his navy, and give up Crete and Hijaz. The Ottomans, clearly believing economics is for the weak, signed the Treaty of Bab el-Eman with the British. It allowed British goods access to Ottoman markets, while Ottoman exports were to be taxed, as well as any Ottoman goods that were traded internally. As you can imagine, this destroyed the domestic Ottoman industry, making them more reliant on British imports. The Egyptians, being part of the empire, also had to abolish their tariffs and end their monopolies, ending Egypt's chance of becoming an industrial power. Muhammad Ali, reasonably seeing all that he had built beginning to crumble, started to lose it a bit. Due to a sickness, he died in 1849. The Egypt he left behind while stagnating had a lot going for it. It was still a cotton exporter, had stable finances with low levels of debt, and with the right leadership could become a strong power. So let's see who can take over. Well, there's Ibrahim, Ali's trusted son, who led his armies, shared his father's vision, and who had died in 1848. Okay, it's not the end of the world. We also have Ali's grandson and the person who did take over Egypt, Abbas I. As long as he continues his grandfather's vision, doesn't become isolated from the world, avoids indulging in luxury too much, and works relatively hard, he should be fine. Okay, let me just check the title for the next part.
You blew it, boy! You